Hey everyone, and welcome to the $1 Billion Banker podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Perrone, and today I have with me the one and only Heather Gallagher. Heather Gallagher is of Acrisure. She's an insurance advocate, client advocate. She also is the co-host of the Heather and Stacey show, which is an amazing podcast. You should go check it out. She's the co-founder of CCC, which stands for Contractors, Closers, and Connections, which is going to be important for our conversation today. And she's an amazing mom and wife. We can't forget that. Yes. Did I miss anything? What else is left?
I don't think so. You got it covered, Nick. You got it covered.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Grateful to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So Heather is no this isn't new for you, right? No. Being on podcasts, you host your podcast, and what we're going to talk to the audience about today is network marketing, the power of network marketing, but not just attending events and going, but really dialing in. And Heather goes by, her handle on Instagram is Heather Connects.
Yes.
And it couldn't ring more true. What you do in the marketing space it's powerful. It makes people want to do things for you because you're a giver. You're a giver, you're a connector. And I want you to share the secrets with our audience today about how you got into, what's your background? How did your background lead you to building teams, creating events, and doing everything you do?
Yeah. So, well, thanks, Nick, for having me on the show. Your show is amazing, and I always love your guests that you have. So thank you again for having me. My background is actually event planning, going kind of way back out of college. Worked for KPMG for a while, and I always loved putting people together and seeing the connection when the event was completed. So I used to do 1,000 events a year. I was flying all over the country. Clearly that was in my single days when I was a lot younger, not married, and no child. But obviously things evolved since then. But, back in the day, I loved bringing people together. Was traveling all over the country, lived on an airplane pretty much. And just seeing it from start to finish and seeing the feeling that I got after it was completely done was just amazing. And then fast forward up to today, it has just snowballed. And I think that no matter what I've done in my career up to this point in my life, I've always just loved to help people and give back and put an event together, whether it's 2 people, 4 people, or 100 people. I just love the collaboration and the start to finish, seeing it all come to full circle.
Well, you're absolutely amazing at it, because it's like when you network and connect people and you host these events, it's like, oh, and by the way, I do all things insurance, which is phenomenal, and people think of you for that now, 100%.
Right. Yeah.
And I was connected to you by another amazing connector. I'll give a shout out to James Krakowski.
Yes.
Hey,
James.
Yeah. And he connected us. And after that, that was it. We had our first lunch meeting.
Yep. And
we spoke about really clearly, I want you to talk to the audience about, think about viewers that are out there that are loan officers, realtors, maybe business owners that are like, how do I get out there? And how do I start to meet new people and get referrals? What would your advice be to someone like that?
Right. So, regardless of where you live, I think a good starting point is, which a lot of people forget about these days, is finding a mentor. I feel that everyone should have at least 3. And I do. And I see them once a month, and it may not always be a lunch. Sometimes it's just a Zoom or a call, or, maybe it's coffee. But I think that's important because I always want to learn. I always want to get better. And I think that they can give you advice because they've been there, done that, regardless of what it is, whether it's a deal, whether it's you're just how to grow, ideas that you have. Am I silly? Is this totally out of the ballpark? Am I insane for even thinking this? So I think to start is finding a mentor. It doesn't have to be 3, but just get one. Get one somebody. Or 2. Get someone. Get Nicole Perrone.
Yeah. We do have a coaching program, and not to do a shameless plug, but I always say, if you have a manager today that you work with, you should start there, right?
For sure.
Hopefully your manager is someone that you look up to, but you should start by saying, hey, I want to throw things by you. I want to get ideas. I want to get ideas flowing. I want you to help me pave the way for me. Show me the roadmap, and then help me stick with it. Right? Help me.
Yeah, your boss is, or is a great start. I mean, I know for me, I'm always picking my brain, picking my boss's brain about different things. But having a mentor, someone other than your boss, I think is also really important because sometimes it's unrelated to maybe what your job is. Maybe it's just, I have an idea that is on the side, like a podcast. You know, that's brings up a good point to kind of segue into, you know, having a podcast. You know, a lot of people want to do a podcast. They don't know where to start. They think it's all this money, and you can be very creative. You know, people, I know a lot of people who have started organically just with their cell phone.
Look, you can do, your cell phone, you could do lives with guests, right? On your Instagram and your social. That's completely free. You could do a Zoom, a recorded Zoom session, whether that be video or audio only. Doesn't need to be in a studio. I think podcasts, I don't know if you would agree, I think it's like the modern day networking, right? Instead
100%.
Instead of us going to lunch, we're here.
Absolutely. And, you know, I was just recently at an event in New York, and one of the top producers who was a realtor, she said, you know, people want to know what you're doing. They don't care if your makeup and your hair and your outfit is perfect. They want current state. They want to know what you're doing. Show them that you're taking a run with a baseball cap and no makeup. And then the next day, if you're going out for dinner with friends, show that you're all glammed up. Like, they want to know raw footage, unedited, and like a day in the life of Nicole Perrone. Like, what is it that you're doing? Like, it's not always, you know, roses, right? It's not, you're not always looking perfect. You're having bad days, and you're also having great days. And I think that keeping it real is what this world is all about, you know, because you're showing a house and you're showing, oh my God, this house needs a ton of work. But guess what? When you need a mortgage, I'm going to Nicole. When you need insurance, you're coming to Heather.
And you know, it's interesting that you said like authenticity, because like if you're doing, whether you're doing a podcast or you're live on social, whatever it is, like even in-person networking, right? Like if I look back early in my career, I wish I was more authentic. I wish I was more comfortable from the beginning. I was very like, you know, almost like not completely who I am, right? And I wish if I were to give anyone advice, it'd be like, just show up as you are, be who you are. That's how people are going to connect with you. Really, you want to make friends is what you want to do. And so people are either going to like you or not like you. And so embrace who you are. Just try to go out there making friends, and then kind of everything else follows. But
be confident, You know,
be confident.
We're different. You know, everyone's different. But at the end of the day, like you said, I think podcasts and showing the day in the life of whatever it is you do, whether it's a realtor, a lender, you know, insurance, whatever it is, title, you know, show who you are and, you know, what sets you apart, you know? So I think those are some key points.
I agree. And so one of the things that you do that's really impressive that I'd like to share with the audience, and maybe you could give us some networking tips and tricks, because I think a lot of people are nervous about how do I introduce myself and how do I follow up, and maybe we'll start there and then we can kind of talk about some of the things that you've created. But like when you go to an event and you're in a big room and there's tons of people around, people are probably getting anxiety listening to this right now. Like how do you get started, and then what do you do after once the event's over?
So when I go to an event, I try to get a list or find out who's going to be there, which is always helpful, right? To kind of vet the event. I always know, like, okay, if it's going to be a bunch of mortgage people, then, you know, my goal is always to meet at least 3 people. If I can meet 3 good people and get business from 2 of them, it's well worth going to the event, because that will cover the cost, the gas, and everything else that you're putting into going to the event, away from your family and all the things, right? But I think that it's important. A lot of people don't vet. That's not something that a lot of people do. I think it's important to know when you're going to an event or a trade show, or, you know, vet it out. Do ask for the list. Ask if you can get. Sometimes they'll share it, sometimes they won't. But if they do, go through it and say, you know what, I want to target this person. They're a top producer. And then when you find those 3 people or 2 people that you want to find, see what you can talk to them about, you know, see what their interests are, find out if they have a podcast, see what they do in revenue per year. Cause then it makes like you've done your due diligence, and that sets you apart. Like, wow, this person from their perspective, they really know what they're talking about. I know that Nicole has a podcast, and it just, you've done your homework, right? And it sets you apart. So I would say do your research. I try to find 3 people. And then follow up is a huge thing that I think people don't do. And it's the biggest thing that I think one of the things that is my strong point is follow-up. Next day or that evening, if I can keep my eyes open and not like super tired, I will definitely follow up that evening and say, hey, can we set up a call to talk about what we discussed?
Right.
Or can we have a coffee or whatever?
I like that you say coffee or call too. Like, don't feel like that next meeting needs to be you taking someone out to lunch or dinner or, you know, going even further financially into this investment in this event. Just start with a simple phone call, right? 30 minutes, get to know each other.
Absolutely. And I think that, you know, not everyone has a huge budget, you know, but I think one of my words, I always try to pick 3 words for the new year. One of my words is vetting, because I think so many people, I call it a time suck, right? It's just, you know, I'm not looking to like buy the world lunches and dinners, you know? I mean, as much as I love to have a nice lunch and dinner, you got to vet it, you know?
And it takes 3 hours, by the way, out of your day, right?
Easily.
Between commuting and sitting there. And so it's easier to have a 30-minute call. I love that as a tip.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that it's like, take the pressure off. There's 100 people in a room. Try to meet 3 of them. And
you're not going to meet everybody. That's the reality, right?
Exactly.
You're not going to talk to, and do you really want to? You know,
No,
you find 3 good people, quality over quantity, as I say.
I agree. And then, so then you follow up and you book that first call.
Yep.
What does that sound like usually? I mean, are you just talking about what you do or?
So I meet you at an event and I'm like, oh my gosh, this girl's amazing. You know, we talk, we have our 30-minute call, and then the next day we're meeting up. Then I want to dig deeper. What types of event? And you're a prime example. When you and I first had lunch, I was blown away. I was like, okay, she clearly does more than just mortgages. And you do. You know, between the podcast, you have a development company and all the things. And then that was like another hour of conversation of, wow, I can help you with this. I can help you with it. It's not just one thing. And I think the other big thing is the average woman does not do that they don't do one thing.
It's so true. It's like, you know, it used to be like the evolution of the work world. It used to be stay in the same job for 20 years and maybe get your 3% increase every year if you're salaried. And now it's like, and this is probably in large in part because like the inflationary times that we're in. Yeah. But now it's like, I'm going to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I'm going to be all things. Right. And that's why I say, like, from a lending perspective, I always say, like, I do everything lending. Right. And I don't want to just say I do one thing, just the same way you are with insurance. So I think that our suggestion is, what we're saying is really make sure that you're broad and diverse in your offerings and the services that you provide. And if you have multiple skills, right? If you do real estate, but you also love photography, like, do both. Talk about both, right? Share it. And because then you get, you don't have to take every photography session that comes your way or offer, but you could refer it out to somebody else, or you can take it. It's like, it's just nice to be able to do things that blend well together too. Which the podcast really, they offer that. And so
absolutely. Don't be afraid. I think a while ago, people were so afraid to say they did more than one thing. It's 2025, guys. Share with people what you do.
I agree.
Share that you have, you love volleyball and you play tennis on the weekends. And oh, by the way, I'm running a marathon once a month. Like, it's okay to talk about these things, It's 2025.
Yeah, that whole I think jack of all trades, master of none thing is like, I think that deterred people from doing things. But so I agree with you. Follow up is something that most people leave off the table. Or
it's low hanging fruit because you spent the time to get there. You paid gas to schlep to the city and all the things, right? You got your new outfit and got all done up. Follow up, close the deal.
Yeah. And you always need these reminders, and I think I was talking to somebody about, someone asked me the sales process, what do you think people leave out the most? And it was that. I think follow up is
huge.
Because after that meeting, you're going to sit down, you're going to get to know the person, right? What do they do? Who are they? Right. And then after that, then what though?
Right.
I think that's the hard part for people. What do you do after that to stay connected?
So I'm going to pick on you again for this.
Okay.
So when you and I had lunch, you told me all the things, and then we kind of dug deep. And then I was like, this is crazy. Like, there's so much we can do together.
Right.
And now we have an every Friday call. So I know I don't have to bug you on Tuesday or Wednesday. I save all my info for Nicole on Friday. It's just, I make a bullet point. I have in my notes, I have a Nicole file that says if I want to talk to her about these things, and I save it to Friday.
But no, you can only do that with so many people. First of all, I love the way that Heather approached about this. She's like, look, we're meeting so many people throughout the course of the week.
Yes.
it's hard
Going
to
to
always be
events.
thinking about everybody that you want to refer business to all the time. It's
Yes.
hard. That's tough. But so she's like, let's just set up a once a week, 20-minute, 30-minute call where we connect and we're like, hey, who did you meet? And who did you meet?
Yeah.
Now, obviously that
Shout out to our friend Lauren.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, Lauren Kelly, who we just did an episode for American Dream TV because of your introduction and the events that you host. And we're going to get into that too. But I think that you can't do that with everybody. So how do you decide who you do that with?
Well, I think that you obviously have a lot in common with certain individuals more than others. And I think that it's got to be a win-win, right? You don't want it to be always the giver and nothing in return. And it sounds cliche, but it does happen to me a lot. You know, I give by nature, but you also want to make sure that you're receiving, and you want to make sure that, you know, you are getting at least referrals and, you know, your name's thrown in the hat. Obviously, you know, not everything is going to come your way, but I just want to be on people's radar.
Right.
So, and you and I think are a great example of that, where, you know, I am always your first go-to for all insurance needs.
Right.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it takes work and effort to make it to be that.
Right.
Now, is every person like that? No.
Right.
But through posts and social media, I'm big on social media. I'm giving tips, reminders, doing a podcast, which I know we'll get into in a minute. That kind of makes, you know, you kind of can determine quickly who your sphere is, your close sphere.
And the cool thing about connecting, as you're talking, I'm thinking about this, like you might not have the opportunity to refer me mortgages all the time,
right,
or coaching clients or whatever it is, right? But you have the ability to connect me with people that can. So like Lauren, as an example, referred me several clients, but you connected me to her. So now, you know, all of that comes every time I get a referral, I'm thinking of you, right? So,
and that's a great point that you say, because I think I make introductions to people all the time, 7 days a week. And it's not always for what they do for a living. So, and Lauren's a prime example. Like, yes, she may need someone who needs a lender, but she also may have someone for something else.
Right.
And so centers of influence can also be for people who are connectors, you know, and they know a lot of people. Lauren is out and about all the time. So are we.
Right.
So people like us, the type A, going to events, we're out 2-3 nights a week.
Right.
They're not always necessarily sending you business, but they may also refer you someone, which is just as amazing and important for our business.
I agree.
So
I agree.
the centers of influence are just as important in my eyes as a lead.
And to nail down the process of connecting, if this is resonating with you and you're like, I want to connect people more.
Right.
I get this. This makes sense. You know, sometimes I feel like I can't always refer people business, but I can connect them. I know so many people. And so
absolutely,
when you meet someone, you want to say, hey, who do you want to meet? Who are the people that you want to be connected to? Right. I think I've connected you with accountants. I've connected you with realtors, because now if something comes of it and a relationship naturally occurs, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But it's us constantly doing that. And
it's consistency. I want to talk about that for 1 second.
Sure.
Nicole.
Yeah.
Every Friday, I know that not only can I talk to you on Fridays, and if I've met someone or want to connect someone to you, that's great. But I think for people who are out there, that when you have your sphere of people, whether it's 10, 5, 100, whatever it is that you find something with those people that's consistent to connect, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a once a month coffee, you know, something.
I think this is a really great point, because because I think a lot of the follow up, if you're good enough to do the follow. By the way, I'm thinking of people I need to follow up with right now. I'm like,
get on it,
like
Nick.
any time in your career, right? You don't reach this certain point where it's like, oh, great, I've made it and I nail everything 24/7. You constantly need these reminders. This is why podcasts. Somebody said to me the other day, podcasts are so great because I'm like a student sitting in the front row at getting to ask questions. Like I'm right here. I get to ask all the questions and I keep the audience in mind. But I think that if you do the follow-up right after and you set up that first call, you're already like ahead of the game, right? You're doing what 90% of people won't do, right? Yep. Now, if you take it a step further than that and you have kind of like your running list of the people that you vibe with, you share ambitions with, you think there's an opportunity, there's synergy that exists. Now you need to stay in touch with them consistently. And so this is the part I love that you're going to go through right now. So, you know, how are you staying in touch with people consistently, thinking of them, driving value? Give us some ideas in that space.
So I think it's important to have a CRM.
Okay.
Not everyone does that. I like HubSpot. That's through my company. But I also have an Excel spreadsheet, which is totally old school. And some people
At
out
least
there
it's
may
not in a
roll-
notebook.
It's not in a notebook. And some people may roll their eyes, but it's something that I look at every day. I call it the Heather list. And I know that, listen, you learn quickly who reciprocates with you, right?
Yeah.
So, and I keep picking on you, Nick, but, I know that we have our Friday call. And so, you're, top 10 because you're someone that I speak to frequently. My list is long, but I look at it every morning as I'm having my coffee.
Right.
And I say, okay, this week I've met 10 people.
Do you categorize it?
I do.
List? Okay.
I do.
Cool.
And that I have into different groups. And it's not necessarily by what you do for a living. Because there's some people that will never go to the city for an event, and there's others that want to just stay in New Jersey in their backyard. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got to know what people likes are. For me, I'm all over the place, and that's just who I am. I will go to Pennsylvania for a 2-hour event and then drive home.
I'm like, you're going to Chicago for this event? You're like, it's great, you should come.
Yeah.
But I love that about you, because if you just stay in like your county, and not to sidetrack you, but that's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I got to fly to Vegas on Sunday, and I'm taking a red eye back on Tuesday. So I'm there for a 2-day convention. But it's where I need to be for my business, and you do what you need to do. Right. I'll be a little sleepy on Wednesday when I have to take those CE classes, it is what it is.
Are you nervous to fly right now, or a little bit?
I am.
Take a couple Xanaxes this time, maybe?
Yes, I am a little nervous.
Just be asleep. If something happens, you're not even going to know what went down. So.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it is the safest way to travel. I do know that, but
do you insure airplanes?
I do.
You do?
I do insure airplanes. See,
if anybody has a private jet that's listening today, or maybe we'll have one day. Who knows?
Yeah,
the
big.
CCC jet.
There you go. That's the goal, right?
So you have this list. You're constantly running through it. I love that. And you're constantly thinking, how can I connect these people? And so coffees, lunches. Are you inviting these people to different events? Because I heard you just say, like, I go to events here and there. I know who will come. Yeah. So you're reaching out. Is that like a strategy you would suggest to the audience?
Absolutely. I think that, there are events everywhere, and, it's called Google, right? You just go on there and search what you're looking for. Now, I have some people that will say, you know what, I don't want to go to a place where there's commercial. Okay, then that event's not for you.
Right.
But it's very easy to vet. You can always, reach out to the organizer who's having the event. Just say, just curious to see like what types of people you have coming. If it's a free-for-all where it's open to the public, God only knows what you're going to get.
Right.
But most events to me that I go to, I know the audience.
They're centered in your industry.
Right. It's commercial. It's, family offices, high net worth, attorneys, people that make up a transaction. Right.
I love that. And now with social too, it's like, you can connect people without necessarily connecting them, right? Like I always see you resharing posts, so now you're sharing with your audience.
I tell all my real estate agents, whether they just started in the business or they're top producers, tag me.
Tag you.
Tag me. I can't tell you how many times that they've found a buyer through. I just shared on my story. I'm like, tag me.
That's
great. I don't need 100 posts, but if you have 1 or 2 a week that you're listing a house, share it, because I have friends that have friends that have friends that have friends that are looking for a house, that want to come out of the city, that want to be in the burbs, and I live in the burbs.
Right.
So, it's I love to share and help people. It goes back to just tag me when you have a house for sale, or whether you need a special promotion on, rates for what you're doing, whatever it is, to share away.
When you start going to all these events, you start realizing, okay, here's the things that I like about them. Here's the things I don't really like about them. And then ultimately you may want to create your own event one day. Right. And that's what you've done. I'm very grateful to be one of the board members.
Absolutely.
I think one of your skill sets that I really would like you to help the audience learn more about, how do you do this, is you've created an event, then you've created a board to help manage and grow that event.
Right.
And so tell us about CCC.
Okay. So CCC stands for Contractors, Closures, and Connections. And it's a national organization. And, my business partner, Rick, was the one who
Shout out to Rick.
Introduced me to Chris Meyer, who is based out of Atlanta, who's the CEO of CCC. And, we met at an event in the city and quickly learned that there was not a chapter in New Jersey. And after doing a little homework and, checking out, the New York chapter and just seeing what it was all about, I really said, we need to have a New Jersey chapter. There's a lot of business in New Jersey and a lot going on. And, we are very different from New York in a lot of ways. Let's start a chapter. So fast forward, we started a chapter and we're still in growth mode. We've only had we're on to our third event, which will be on February 20th at the district. So anyone out there who's in, commercial and residential, make sure you follow me on LinkedIn and click on the link to register and come if you're available.
And we'll have all that in the description section, so you can check it out there to follow the CCC in New Jersey and New York.
Yep.
Great organizations. And the district, where is that located?
The district is actually at Harborside.
Okay.
And it's all completely going to be renovated. Shout out to David Vorsheimer and his whole team that's going to redevelop that. It's going to be awesome. We're going to learn all about that on our February 20th. There's going to be a great panel of three guys
panel, right?
that they'll talk about it, Nick, and they're just going to really share their future of what it's going to be and how they're going to integrate the community, work, play, life balance, and all of that. It's going to be awesome. But I'm really excited about CCC. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? It takes time to build a chapter and to get the word out about CCC.
And for our audience, like when you thought about, okay, I'm going to create my own organization, and which is a lot of time.
Yes.
How did you get a group of people together? Like, how many people are on the board, and how did you go about doing this strategically? What would be your advice to the audience if they want to do something like this?
Yeah, so I think it's knowing your people, right? We handpicked our board because we wanted people that were connectors, people that could talk up an event, be influential enough to bring people. We want people that could get sponsors, that they have relationships with people that would say, you know what, Nicole, I do believe in you. And I do believe in this event and the brand and the organization, where I do want to put, my money where my mouth is and just, be able to, market themselves as a company.
And you also did this with a partner. So for anyone that's maybe looking to do, I want to start my own thing. I want to create something, maybe, find someone else that's interested in doing it. You two can kind of lead the front.
At the end of the day, Nicole, you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah.
Rick and I would not be able to build this without ourselves. And you quickly learn that after the first and second event. You need a board to talk it up, market it, talk to their clients, talk to their friends. It's just too much for two people to do. So it takes a village, as they say, right? So with our new board, which was just implemented and which we're super excited about, we meet monthly. But this is the great thing about what I love personally, if I can talk about this for a minute, is I look at our board as a mini CCC. And what I'm so excited about is we curated a board. And, again, so grateful to you for being on the board, because I know it is, it's time consuming to meet once a month. And
and you make me drive like an hour and a half
away.
I
know. Eventually I'll get you to move out here. But what I love about it, it's a mini CCC in the sense of we want to do deals within the board. So when someone has a client out of the 10 of us, when they need a residential loan, they're going to go to Nicole. When they need insurance, they're going to come to Heather.
I'm thinking of more people I need to follow up with, by
See,
the way.
This is all happening for a reason, Nick. But that's the beauty of it, right? And so when someone needs title, they'll go to Rob Rossi. When, and so forth and so on through the whole board. And that's the beauty of it. So something's in it as a board member, and we hope that you'll be fed through business and relationships, and
people
things will snowball, and eventually we'll do some deals just as a board. So it's really what you want it. But I hope and pray that will be something that our board likes and really will see it flourish as time goes on.
Yeah, I think so too. And it takes, when I started in business, for those listening, I was in a B&I group for 8 years, and it was the best thing I could have done to teach me about networking and connecting and thinking of others. And their whole motto was
Giver's gain.
Giver's gain. Yeah. You can't forget it, right? And then there were things that I loved about it and things I didn't love so much, but it taught me a lot about getting out in the world of networking. And so, every time this world evolves more, there's just another level of networking that we need to do. So being in organizations, I've ran teams of loan officers for a long time. Many of them are not even in an organization. They're not in any organizations. I just spoke with someone the other day that was like, hey, I want to grow my business in New Jersey. I do most of my business in New York. What do you think I should do? I'm just not having success. And so to your point before, find a mentor, right?
Yes, find a mentor.
And so I was like, I'm so grateful that you called me to ask me for my advice, because I would tell you to do the same thing you did in New York. But my first point of advice was join a chamber, because I think those are really great, wide variety of professionals. I think it's good for you personally too.
Absolutely.
Chambers, because then you get meet people that are good for your business and people that are local business owners. And then find a realtor association. I mean, those
Definitely.
are right.
Those are great organizations.
And they have events all the time. And there's the awards galas. You start to figure out who's doing the most business. And then
LinkedIn too has great groups.
Exactly.
Great groups.
Great groups to join.
Yes.
Eventbrite is an awesome place to go, or meetup.com is another one. So find events, but you can't boil the ocean. You ever hear that expression?
Yes,
right?
I love that expression. It's so true.
Right. So you have to pick a few, right? And then you have to
do them well. Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Don't be everything to everybody. Don't go to 100 events a month. It's ridiculous and not realistic.
Right. It's not. But so you have to start with thinking about what organization should I get involved in? Make sure you follow up. Make sure you're meeting people. And then, if you're interested in getting in other events, you leverage social media, leverage the podcast world, leverage the ability to connect, share with one another and support each other there.
Yes.
I think that's so big right now.
Yes.
It's such an advantage that we have.
Absolutely.
I mean, we didn't have this the whole time we were in business, right?
No.
Like, if you wanted to see someone's Rolodex or reach out to someone, like, you had to call them. You couldn't DM them. Like, now it's make it easy.
Now it's like a half a second.
Right. And you're like, it's already templated. You're like, boom, I've just sent this to like 5 other people, but I want to connect with you. That's why I'm reaching out to you. So
instant gratification now. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I'm excited about this CCC event. We're going to have all the details on it. Check out the show notes, check out the description, reach out to Heather. All of her information will be here. And before you leave, I want to talk a little bit about insurance, because I think that there's been so much going on in the world and so many catastrophes.
Yeah.
And a large part of our audience, obviously, they own homes. So what if you gave us any advice today on insurance or the world of insurance, what would it be?
I think that, listen, insurance rates are still high. They're not getting any lower anytime soon as of now. But there are so many things that are going on, catastrophes, the fires in California, the flooding in Florida, different things in California and Florida, the 2 hardest states for insurance at the moment. But I think all of that said, it's super important, Nicole, to find a good insurance agent that truly has your best interest at heart. And what I mean by that is there's so many insurance folks out there that just want to sell policies. They do all these things. You need this, you need this, you need this, you need that. That is not the approach that I take. My advice to everyone out there watching is to find either be myself or someone that is close to you that really will sit down with you, at minimum once a year, minimum. Because obviously you make purchases that you didn't have from last year. Maybe you buy a boat, sports car, whatever it may be.
Jewelry,
right? Bling, bling. But find someone that can take you through the steps of everything. You don't need to know all of our language that we speak, but know the basics of the policies and why you need things, right? And there's so many times when we review client policies that it's just like, why do you have that? You don't need it.
Right.
And they look at me like I have 10 heads and they say, well, Heather, then what are you talking? They can't believe that I'm telling them that they don't need that.
Right.
And that's a compliment to me. It makes me feel good. I want them to have what they absolutely need.
Right.
So my advice to everyone out there is to have someone that truly knows what they're talking about and truly is not just selling you policies to sell you policies to make a buck.
Right.
It's you need to have what you actually need.
Right. I think that's a perfect advice. As you're talking, I'm thinking like all my insurance policies are all over the place too, and they're not like connected, and it gets very difficult. You get renewals every year, and you got to follow up with this. So my advice would be, and we're working on this now, is like start to get everything in one place, right? Because
you don't need a million different things.
You have a couple cars, you have
cars.
a few houses, you have a business, like. So it's a lot, but when it comes to insurance, I love that you're all things insurance. So if we come to you, we can do auto, home, life insurance. You can insure major developments, buildings, do general liability. I mean, you name it, the list goes on. You do it all.
I would want to talk about that, Nick, for 1 second, if I can. Most insurance people have a niche, which is great. And most people, even in my company, they just do credit insurance, or they'll do just employee benefits. And that's great. Anyone that knows me out there knows that I am all over the place in the best way. I mean that in the best way possible, that I do everything. I am one-stop shop. I have an amazing team behind me. So I do everything I even do cannabis.
There you go.
So it's home and car, builder's risk, homeowners insurance, you name it, we do it.
Mm-hmm.
Health, 401k, cyber's big right now, flood.
Mm-hmm.
So anything, if you're to get one thing from this podcast, I am all things one-stop shop insurance.
That's great.
So I can truly do everything from A to Z.
That's good. But I love that that's not what you lead with in your business, in your day to day. Nobody really cares to hear about insurance, right?
There's nothing sexy about it other than you need it, right?
Right. Exactly right. But people, and so I guess that would be one of the last tips I would leave the audience with is whatever it is that you do for a living, don't lead with that all the time, right? Lead with other things in your life that maybe are of interest, things that you do well, ways that you can help other people. And then it's kind of like, oh, by the way, I sell real estate, or oh, by the way. And I think that's the way to do it. And I'm so happy that you came here today.
Thank you for having me.
This information. Yeah,
absolutely, Nick. This was awesome.
And I hope that we'll get some people here to the CCC event.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be amazing.
Please come. We'd love to have you.
I think one last thing, the interesting thing is not anybody can go, right? Is that you have to apply to be accepted?
We want to make sure that we have the right people.
Okay.
So we make sure that you are, a business professional and not just coming for the wrong reasons. So we like that.
Very cool. All right, guys. Well, apply if you're interested. Thanks for joining us today, Heather. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely, Nick.
And we'll
Thanks for having me.
See you guys soon.
All right.
Bye.